Well, the inspiration behind the boundaries article actually started a year prior when I was writing an article for Covenant Eyes. And I had gotten into a negotiation with their editor for their blog and was trying to come up with ideas because Covenant Eyes has been around for quite a while. They have a lot of articles written by people on their staff and by contributors like myself. And you'd think that they would have covered the entire spectrum of what there is to talk about. Uh, and if you're not familiar with Covenant Eyes, they are the company that produces accountability software to help people who struggle with pornography. And one of the challenges I had is I wanted to have a topic that covered all of sexual addiction, and they wanted to keep it narrow for just for pornography. So I came up with this idea that I don't believe that they had written anything about. And it was about how men who struggle with addiction in general, but for Covenant Eyes it was for pornography, how it's a challenge uh, to deal with boundaries that are established by their partners. And this is a very important topic because I'm always kind of curious on why why do I struggle with this? What is difficult about it? And by this time, I had a good handle on things. I just wanted to write an article about it for Covenant Eyes. What was unique about what I had to say was the idea that boundaries is a challenge because it involves a paradox. And I wanted to title the article "The Paradox of Boundaries." In fact, that's how I still refer to it. The editor wanted to go with the top 10 reasons why or such and such, and I wasn't about that wasn't the focus of the article. So we found a happy medium, and the title is what it is now: is why are boundaries challenging in porn recovery or something like that. But the content of the article is what's important. It is the concept that men who struggle with addiction in general is because there's a paradox involved. In addiction, there's all kinds of paradox. And this one, I wanted to identify, I wanted to label it, I wanted to point it out so that when inevitably, uh, when you're in a relationship and you're struggling with addiction, the last thing you want to do is release control of, of what you are trying to deal with in the world. Because what men don't really understand is that they are dealing with emotional insecurity. And it's just not something that's brought up to them. It's something that we cover in coaching, and I'm sure it's covered in therapy as well. The partners are trying to establish relational security. They want to feel safe in their relationship, as would anyone. So here you have these two competing interests. One person's seeking out relational security, another person is seeking emotional security. And there's a there's a clash. There this is where the struggle is in the relationship. And what I was trying to do is convince men that you need her boundaries in order to recover from your addiction. Because what we're trying, the paradox is what we want for ourselves with emotional security, which we probably have not identified at this point, is exactly going to be given by a partner who has the ability to do so. You have to give over to her the very thing that you are trying to provide to yourself. But the idea of handing over any kind of emotional security equates to vulnerability, and that's the very thing that we're fighting against. is emotional vulnerability. So we think that we have to control it for ourselves. But in a relationship, we have to be willing, at least try to give over that emotional security to someone else so that they can take care of that need for us. That's the give and take in a relationship. And this is not taught uh, uh, to anyone that I've worked with. It definitely was not taught to me, was not modeled for me in my early life. So it's not something that we can construct in our minds. But as I like to say, the most difficult part of recovery is giving your heart over to someone else's care.